When people speak about the great events in the Buddha's life, they often think of the night of enlightenment under the Bodhi tree, the first sermon at Sarnath, or the moment he entered final Nibbana. Yet there is another scene, quieter and more poetic, that carries a depth of emotion rarely discussed. The day the Buddha returned from the heavenly realm to the human world, a moment now known, and disciples who watched in awe as he came down a celestial pathway of light. It is a moment that feels both mythical and profoundly human, and it opens a doorway to a story not just about divine realms, but about gratitude, compassion, and the love between a mother and her son. Lababduchen marks the time when the Buddha had finished teaching in the heaven of Trayastrimsa, where his mother had been reborn after passing away just 7 days after his birth. For 3 months, he taught her the Dhamma with the gentleness of a son and the clarity of a fully awakened teacher. And when that period ended, he returned to the human world, carrying with him a message that transcends time. Enlightenment is not a path that makes someone distant or cold, but one that deepens understanding, softens the heart, and strengthens the resolve to help others. The Buddha's descent is more than a historical or mythical event. It is a reminder that wisdom does not float above life, but moves back toward it, returning again and again to uplift the beings who have cared for us, guided us, or sacrificed for us. In this sense, the story becomes far more than a depiction of celestial travel. It becomes a reflection of something universal, the desire to repay kindness, the longing to express gratitude, and the recognition that no matter how far one has traveled on the path of wisdom, there are bonds that continue to inspire compassion. Buddhism often speaks of non-self and detachment, concepts many people misunderstand as cold or emotionless. Yet here we see the opposite. An awakened being who honors the love of a mother not through attachment, but through the deepest form of respect a person can offer, the gift of understanding. The Buddha's return from the heavens is a reminder that spiritual growth does not remove us from the world. It teaches us how to engage with the world in a more meaningful and boundless way. As the story unfolds, the descent becomes a symbol of a greater truth, one that touches anyone who has ever felt gratitude for the people who shaped their life. It shows that enlightenment does not lead one away from human relationships. Rather, it transforms those relationships into opportunities to express compassion without fear, ego, or expectation. And so, the image of the Buddha, descending the path of light, continues to resonate through centuries. A quiet scene of cosmic beauty that carries within it a timeless lesson about love, gratitude, and the heart of awakening. Long before the Buddha walked down the celestial path back to the human world, there was a quieter, more intimate story that set everything in motion, the story of his mother, Queen Maya. She was the one who carried him, protected him, and brought him into this world, but their time together was heartbreakingly brief. Only 7 days after giving birth, she passed away and was reborn in a heavenly realm, far beyond the world of ordinary human beings. For most people, such a separation would simply become a wound that time slowly fades. But for the Buddha, this early loss became the seed of a profound act of compassion that would unfold many years later. After the Buddha attained enlightenment and began teaching the Dhamma across northern India, news of his wisdom and compassion spread through the realms of gods and humans alike. Eventually, he knew the time had come to repay the kindness of the one who had given him life. In Buddhism, gratitude is not expressed through rituals or offerings alone. The greatest gift one can offer is understanding, the kind that leads a being out of suffering and into clarity. So the Buddha rose into the heaven of Trayastrimsa, a realm filled with radiant beings and gentle light, where his mother now lived. It was not a journey motivated by attachment or longing, but by compassion purified through wisdom, the kind of compassion that remains even after one has gone beyond all forms of personal identity. For 3 months, the Buddha stayed in that heavenly realm, sharing with his mother the teachings that reveal the nature of mind, the impermanence of all forms, and the path that leads beyond the cycle of birth and death. These were not lessons spoken by a child to a parent, nor by a parent to a child. They were the teachings of a fully awakened being offered with the tenderness of a son who understood the immeasurable kindness he had received. In that realm, he was surrounded not only by his mother but by celestial beings who gathered to listen, each drawn to the clarity of his presence. The Buddha taught without the constraints of time, space, or human limits, sharing truths that resonated through divine and earthly worlds alike. But even in the comfort and serenity of the heavenly realm, the Buddha never intended to stay. His purpose was never to escape the human world or remain in a place of ease. His heart was with the beings who continued to struggle, the monks walking village to village, the lay people seeking guidance, the kings and commoners who yearned for a way beyond greed, anger, and confusion. When the 3 months came to an end, he prepared to return, not because heaven lacked beauty, but because the human world still needed his light. The gods themselves recognized his intention, and according to the ancient story, they created a magnificent triple staircase of gold, silver, and crystal so he could descend with dignity and grace. As he stepped down toward the earth, surrounded by heavenly beings on both sides, the event became far more than a simple return. It became a symbol, a moment that showed how even after realizing the highest truth, the Buddha chose to come back, to teach, to guide, and to honor the woman who brought him into existence. His descent reminds us that wisdom does not retreat from the world. It moves toward it. It does not ask for comfort. It gives clarity. And it does not forget the kindness that shaped its path. In this way, the story behind the Buddha's descent becomes a profound lesson not only in compassion, but in how enlightenment deepens our understanding of the relationships that form the fabric of human life. When people hear the word filial piety, they often imagine a relationship built on duty, obedience, or the weight of traditional expectations. But in Buddhism, the meaning is quietly different, softer, and deeper. It is not about surrendering one's freedom or binding oneself to rigid obligations. It is about recognizing the kindness that supported our existence and responding to it with clarity, compassion, and understanding. The Buddha's relationship with his mother reveals this truth in a way that is both tender and profoundly philosophical. Even though he taught the principle of non-self, the idea that nothing truly belongs to me or mine, he still honored the immeasurable kindness that brought him into the world. Non-self did not make him distant. It made him capable of loving without fear, without attachment, and without expectation. To many people, teachings like impermanence and detachment appear cold, as if spiritual practice demands emotional withdrawal. But the Buddha's actions show the opposite. His journey into the heavenly realm to teach his mother was not driven by attachment or longing for the past. It was motivated by gratitude, a gratitude free from clinging, a gratitude that saw clearly the truth of existence yet chose to act with warmth. In Buddhism, this quality is known as Kathina, the ability to recognize goodness in others and to appreciate it deeply. It is considered a noble virtue, one that elevates the mind rather than burdens it. In the Buddha's case, he repaid his mother not with rituals or worldly gifts, but with the highest offering available to an awakened being, the gift of understanding, the wisdom that leads beyond suffering. This form of love is subtle. It isn't a love that tries to hold on, nor a love that demands anything in return. It is a love purified by insight. When the Buddha taught his mother in the heavenly realm, he was not just instructing her in abstract truths. He was offering her a path toward liberation. That is why, in Buddhism, guiding someone toward clarity is seen as the greatest expression of gratitude. Material gifts can be lost, words can be forgotten, even acts of service may fade with time. But helping someone see reality with a clearer mind is a kindness that continues into future lives. It is compassion expressed in its most liberated form. The story also reminds us that enlightenment does not erase human bonds. Rather, it transforms them. The Buddha no longer related to his mother through the lens of my parent or my obligation. He related to her as a being who had shown him immense kindness and who now deserved the possibility of awakening. This shift removes the heaviness from love and replaces it with freedom. It is a love that does not imprison the heart but expands it. When viewed through this lens, the Buddha's act becomes a living example of how wisdom and love can coexist without contradiction. Where ordinary love becomes entangled with fear, desire, or expectation, enlightened love becomes spacious, compassionate, and steady. For anyone who studies this story, it becomes a gentle reminder that spiritual growth does not mean abandoning the people who shaped us. It means learning to love them with clarity, seeing their struggles, their strengths, and their humanity without the cloud of ego. It means offering not just material comfort but emotional presence, understanding, and patience. And it means recognizing that gratitude is not a burden. It is a source of strength that softens the heart and deepens our connection with others. The Buddha's love for his mother was not an exception to his teachings. It was a perfect expression of them, a demonstration that compassion is strongest when it flows without attachment, and gratitude is most beautiful when it is guided by wisdom. The story of the Buddha's descent from the heavenly realm is often remembered for its beauty: the luminous staircase, the gathering of gods and humans, the serene expression on the Buddha's face as he returned to the world. But beneath the imagery lies a deeper symbolic message, one that reaches far into the modern world and speaks directly to the way we live, love, and understand our relationships. When the Buddha stepped down from that celestial path, he was not merely moving from one place to another. He was demonstrating a timeless truth. Wisdom is not meant to remain in distant heights. It is meant to return to the places where help is needed, to flow back into the lives of ordinary people, and to illuminate the relationships that shape our journey. In this story, the heavenly realm becomes a symbol of comfort, clarity, and ease, the kind of peace many of us long for when life feels overwhelming. Yet the Buddha chose to leave that serenity behind, showing that spiritual awakening is not an escape from the world but a deeper engagement with it. His mother, reborn in a higher realm, represents all those who have cared for us, guided us, or sacrificed for our well-being. The descent becomes a reminder that growth and independence do not erase the importance of gratitude. Even when we rise above old limitations or move into new phases of life, we still carry the kindness of others within us, and that kindness deserves to be acknowledged. When we apply this symbolism to modern life, it becomes clear how relevant the story remains. Today, many people face strained relationships with parents, not out of lack of love but because the demands of life, misunderstandings, or generational differences create distance. In a world driven by ambition, competition, and constant busyness, the idea of returning to compassion, returning to gratitude, returning to understanding, becomes more important than ever. The Buddha's descent encourages us to pause, to reflect on those who shaped us, and to recognize that the simple act of remembering and appreciating can transform the way we connect with others. The triple staircase described in the ancient tale also carries symbolic meaning. Its steps of gold, silver, and crystal can be seen as representing different qualities of the mind: the steadiness of moral integrity, the clarity of deep concentration, and the brilliance of wisdom that reflects reality as it truly is. Walking down such a staircase symbolizes the movement from insight into action, from understanding into compassionate presence. It suggests that the true measure of spiritual maturity is not how far one rises above the world, but how gently one returns to it. In everyday life, returning does not always mean going back physically. Sometimes it means returning emotionally, offering forgiveness, listening more deeply, or softening a hardened heart. Sometimes it means returning mentally, bringing mindfulness into conversations, reducing harsh judgments, and recognizing the humanity of those we struggle with. And sometimes it means returning spiritually, choosing compassion when anger feels easier, or gratitude when resentment is more familiar. These small descents, quiet and humble, create bridges between people just as surely as the Buddha's radiant path connected heaven and earth. Ultimately, the symbolic lesson of the Buddha's descent is that wisdom must flow into the world to have meaning. Enlightenment is not a private treasure to be kept for oneself. It is a light meant to be shared. The story reminds us that even the most elevated understanding must bend gently toward those who are suffering, confused, or lost. And in the same way, our own moments of clarity, however small, become powerful when we use them to heal relationships, support others, and nurture compassion within ourselves. The Buddha's return from the heavenly realm invites us to examine the places in our own lives where understanding can descend, gently and patiently, to reconnect us with the people who matter and to remind us that love grounded in wisdom is one of the strongest forces in the world. When the Buddha finally placed his feet once again on the human earth, he carried with him more than celestial grace or the silent blessing of the heavenly realms. He brought back a message that has endured for centuries, a reminder that awakening is not a movement away from the world but a gentle turning toward it. His descent symbolizes the union of wisdom and compassion, the meeting point between understanding the truth of all things and caring deeply for the beings who live within that truth. It shows that even one who has gone beyond birth and death still honors the bonds of kindness, gratitude, and love that shaped his early life. In this moment, the image of the Buddha becomes human in the most profound way, not because he clings to relationships, but because he understands them with a purity that frees rather than binds. The story invites us to reflect on our own lives and the quiet debts of kindness we carry. Each of us has been shaped by someone, a parent, a guardian, a teacher, or even a stranger who offered help when we needed it. Often, we move forward so quickly that we forget the hands that steadied us, the sacrifices made behind the scenes, or the silent love that allowed us to grow. The Buddha's return from the heavenly realm gently reminds us that gratitude is not merely a feeling but a practice, one that can be expressed through presence, understanding, and compassion. Just as he returned to offer wisdom to his mother, we too can offer clarity, patience, and kindness to the people who shaped us, even if our lives have changed, even if distances have grown, even if words have become difficult to say. In contemplating this story, we are encouraged to see that love guided by wisdom does not weaken us. It strengthens us. It allows us to step beyond resentment, misunderstandings, and the heaviness of old emotions. It teaches us that remembering kindness does not trap us in the past but enriches our present. And it shows us that the highest forms of love are not based on possession or obligation, but on the heartfelt wish for others to find peace, happiness, and understanding. The Buddha's act demonstrates that spiritual maturity is not measured by how far we rise above the world, but by how gently we return to those who need our light. As we reflect on the meaning of Lababduchen, this story becomes a mirror, showing us how enlightenment, in its truest form, is expressed not through grand gestures but through simple acts of compassion. It reminds us that even small moments of patience, generosity, or mindful presence can become rays of light in someone else's life, and it invites us to look within ourselves and ask, whom can we return to with more understanding? Whose kindness have we carried without acknowledgement? What wisdom can we offer to the beings who once cared for us? In the end, the Buddha's descent is a quiet, radiant symbol of love that transcends worlds. It tells us that awakening is not separate from human connection. It perfects it, and it encourages us to bring our own light, however small, however humble, back into the lives of those who once helped us rise.